The evening light settles slowly over the ancient city of Rome. Warm sunlight rests gently on tiled rooftops and pale stone walls, stretching long shadows across narrow streets that have carried the footsteps of countless people throughout the day. The sounds of the city begin to soften now. Merchants pull wooden shutters over their stalls in the marketplace. A cart rolls slowly across the worn stones of the road, its wheels turning with a steady, familiar rhythm. The day is winding down. A faint breeze drifts through the streets, carrying the distant scent of baking bread, olives, and wood smoke rising from small cooking fires. People begin moving through the city at a slower pace. Some are returning home after work, while others follow a quiet routine that has been part of Roman life for centuries. They are heading toward the baths. From a distance, thin streams of steam rise gently into the evening sky. They drift upward from behind tall walls and wide archways that belong to one of the most beloved places in the city, the public bath. In ancient Rome, bathing was not simply about washing away dust from the day. It was something much deeper and far more relaxing. The baths were places where the busy world softened, where time slowed down, and where people could rest both their bodies and their thoughts. Tonight we will walk slowly through those peaceful halls together. We will explore why the people of ancient Rome loved their public baths so deeply, how these enormous spaces were designed, and what it felt like to step inside them after a long day in one of the busiest cities of the ancient world. But first, imagine yourself walking through the streets of Rome as the sun begins to fade. The city is large, alive with movement and voices. Yet at this hour a gentle calm begins to settle across the neighborhoods. Torches are being lit beside doorways. Their soft flames flicker quietly against the stone walls, casting warm light across the road. Ahead, the bath complex begins to appear. Even from the outside, it is clear that this is no ordinary building. Roman bathhouses were often enormous, covering spaces as large as several modern city blocks. High stone walls surround the complex, and wide entrances open into courtyards and halls within. Tall arches frame the doorways. Inside those walls lie pools of warm water, heated rooms filled with gentle steam, quiet corridors of marble, and open courtyards where people walk slowly beneath the evening sky. For many Romans, visiting the baths was the most peaceful moment of the entire day. What makes these places even more remarkable is that they were not reserved only for wealthy citizens. The baths were public spaces, welcoming people from nearly every part of Roman society. A dock worker finishing a long day unloading ships along the river might enter through the same doors as a merchant, a teacher, a craftsman, or even a senator. Soldiers returning from patrol could rest here beside scholars and poets who had spent their day reading and writing. Inside the baths, many of the differences between people seemed to fade away. Everyone followed the same quiet routine. You passed through the entrance, along with others arriving for the evening. The sound of footsteps echoes softly against the stone floors as visitors move calmly through the first halls of the complex. The air inside feels warmer than the streets outside. The scent of heated stone and mineral water drifts gently through the building. Somewhere deeper within the baths you can hear the soft sound of water splashing against the edges of marble pools. Low voices blend together in calm conversation, creating a steady background murmur that fills the halls. The pace of life slows almost immediately. Before entering the bathing rooms, visitors step into the Aqueductarium, the changing room. This chamber is lined with stone benches and small recessed niches carved into the walls. Here people place their clothing and sandals before beginning the bathing process. The simple act of setting aside a dusty tunic after a long day feels surprisingly refreshing. Visitors sit for a moment, stretching their arms and shoulders, allowing the calm warmth of the building to settle over them. Some speak quietly with friends who have arrived at the same time. Others simply enjoy the feeling of rest beginning to replace the fatigue of the day. Soon they will begin moving through the sequence of bathing rooms that made Roman baths famous across the empire. But the baths were not just a single pool. Instead, they were carefully designed journeys through different temperatures and spaces. Each room played a role in guiding the body gradually from warmth to heat, and then back again to refreshing coolness. This thoughtful design helps bathers relax slowly rather than rushing through the experience. And the first step in that gentle journey waits just beyond the next archway. Visitors leave the changing room and pass into a chamber where the warmth begins to increase slightly. This room is called the Tepidarium. The Tepidarium is not hot, and it is not cold. Instead, it offers a comfortable, gentle warmth that prepares the body for the deeper heat that lies ahead. The floor beneath your feet feels pleasantly warm, heated from below by a clever system hidden beneath the stone. The room glows softly with warm light. Small windows placed high in the walls allow sunlight to drift downward in pale golden beams. These beams move slowly across the marble floor as the sun lowers outside. Along the walls, visitors recline on smooth benches, speaking quietly or simply resting. There is no rush here. The Romans believed that bathing should be slow and unhurried, allowing the body to adjust gradually. Sitting in the Tepidarium, people allow their muscles to loosen and their breathing to slow. Outside the bath complex, the busy city continues its evening routines. But inside these walls, a different rhythm takes over. The gentle warmth spreads through the room. The sound of distant water echoes through the halls. Somewhere deeper within the baths, steam rises quietly into the air. And soon we will step further inside, into the warmest and most famous chamber of all, the Caldarium, where steam, heated stone, and warm water create the heart of the Roman bathing experience. But before we continue deeper into the baths, take a quiet moment to settle into this peaceful place. If you enjoy slow and relaxing journeys through history like this one, you can gently like the video and subscribe for more calm stories from the ancient world. Now, let us continue our quiet walk through the warm halls of the Roman baths. Beyond the calm warmth of the Tepidarium, another archway leads deeper into the baths. The air grows thicker here, carrying with it a soft mist that hangs gently in the light. Instead, the space is filled with the quiet movement of water, the slow shifting of steam, and the calm voices of people settling into the most comforting part of the bathing ritual. You step forward, and the warmth deepens. The chamber feels almost like entering a cloud of gentle heat. Steam curls lazily through the air, drifting upward toward a high-domed ceiling, where faint beams of light filter through small openings above. The stone walls hold warmth like a quiet memory of the fire that burns beneath the building. In the center of the room rests a wide pool of steaming water. The surface shimmers softly as bathers step in and out, sending slow ripples across the marble edges. Others move deeper into the water, allowing the warmth to rise gently around them. The Romans believed that this heat was deeply restorative. After a long day of walking across the stone streets of Rome, carrying goods through the markets or working in the fields beyond the city walls, the Caldarium offered something incredibly valuable: relief. Muscles softened, breathing slowed. The body began to loosen after the steady demands of the day. And yet the Caldarium was not simply a room filled with hot water. It was a masterpiece of ancient engineering. Hidden beneath the floor, invisible to the bathers resting above, was one of the most remarkable heating systems of the ancient world. Roman builders created a system known as the hypocaust, a clever network of spaces beneath the stone floors where hot air could circulate. In a separate furnace room, large fires burned steadily throughout the day. Workers carefully fed wood into these furnaces, keeping the flames strong enough to heat the baths. The hot air produced by the fire traveled through hollow spaces under the floor, warming the stone from below. Small pillars supported the raised floors of the bath chambers, allowing the heat to move freely underneath. As the warm air flowed through these spaces, it heated the floor, the walls, and even the pools of water. But hidden beneath their feet was an elegant system quietly distributing heat through the building. Nearby, attendants move quietly around the room. Others assist bathers who request a traditional Roman cleaning ritual. Unlike modern bathing, which often relies on soap and running water, Romans used a slightly different method to cleanse their skin. First, the heat of the Caldarium opened the pores and softened the body. Then bathers covered their skin lightly with olive oil, spreading it across their arms, shoulders, and legs. The oil collected dust, sweat, and small particles from the skin. The process might seem unusual today, but for the Romans it was deeply satisfying. It was both cleansing and relaxing, a quiet ritual repeated thousands of times every day across the vast bath complexes of Rome. Around the Caldarium, people sit comfortably while attendants assist them with this slow and careful process. The sound of metal lightly touching skin is soft and rhythmic, almost like the gentle brushing of leaves in a warm breeze. Conversations continue in calm tones. Friends who have not seen each other during the busy day now have time to speak. Merchants discuss shipments of grain arriving from distant provinces. Soldiers share quiet stories from patrols along the city walls. Philosophers sometimes gather in small groups, exchanging thoughts about the nature of life, the movement of the stars, or the responsibilities of good citizenship. But none of these conversations feel hurried. The baths encourage patience. No one hurries the process of bathing, and this slow pace is one of the reasons Romans loved the baths so much. Wide hallways allow people to walk without crowding each other. Open courtyards invite fresh air to move gently through the building. Above the Caldarium, the curved dome of the ceiling helps hold the warmth inside the chamber. Small openings near the top allow a little steam to escape, preventing the room from becoming too heavy with moisture. As you sit beside the pool, the heat slowly settles into your shoulders. The soft splash of water echoes quietly against the walls. Outside the baths, the city continues its evening rhythm. Street vendors pack their goods. Families gather around simple meals of bread, vegetables, and wine. Torches flicker along the roads as darkness deepens. But inside the Caldarium, the moment stretches comfortably. Eventually, after spending enough time in the warmest chamber, bathers begin preparing for the next step of the ritual. Their skin feels warm and relaxed. Their breathing has slowed. Now it is time to cool down. Through another archway lies the final stage of the Roman bathing journey, a place where the warmth of the Caldarium gives way to refreshing cold water. Soon we will step into the Frigidarium, the cool chamber where Romans completed their baths with a final plunge that left the body awake, refreshed and ready to step back into the quiet night of the ancient city. Leaving the warm mist of the Caldarium behind, bathers move slowly down a wide stone corridor where the air begins to feel lighter. The deep heat that surrounded the body only moments ago fades gradually with each step, replaced by a refreshing coolness drifting gently through the halls. The quiet sound of dripping water echoes against the marble walls. This room is known as the Frigidarium. The air here feels crisp and clear. The ceiling rises high above, supported by tall columns that reflect the soft light entering through wide openings in the upper walls. The chamber feels spacious and calm, almost like an indoor courtyard. At the center of the room lies a large pool of cold water. The surface of the water is still and smooth, reflecting the pale stone arches that surround it, while others prepare themselves for the cool plunge that completes the Roman bathing ritual. For many visitors, this moment is both refreshing and slightly surprising. After spending time in the heat of the Caldarium, the body has grown deeply warm. Muscles have relaxed, pores have opened, and the gentle weight of steam has settled across the skin. Stepping into the cool water of the Frigidarium creates an immediate contrast. A bather lowers 1 foot into the pool. The water feels sharp and clear against warm skin, but only for a moment. Soon the body adjusts, and the coolness begins to feel invigorating rather than uncomfortable. A quiet splash echoes through the chamber. Another person follows. Soon the pool carries gentle ripples that spread softly across its surface, reflecting the tall columns and curved ceilings above. The Romans believed this final stage of bathing helped strengthen the body. Moving from warm rooms to cool water was thought to close the pores and refresh the skin after the long process of heating and cleansing. Whether or not they understood the exact science, they knew from experience that it left them feeling calm and renewed. When bathers step out of the Frigidarium pool, their skin feels cool and awake, their muscles relaxed but refreshed. But the baths were not only about water and temperature. They were also places where people spent time together, where daily life unfolded through quiet conversation and companionship. Near the edges of the Frigidarium, small groups gather in relaxed discussion. Some sit along marble benches lining the walls. Others wrap themselves in simple cloths while continuing conversations that may have begun earlier in the warmer rooms. A merchant might speak with a friend about ships arriving at the port of Ostia, carrying grain and olive oil from distant provinces. A young student might listen while an older philosopher reflects on the writings of earlier thinkers. A soldier might calmly describe a journey through lands far from Rome. The atmosphere of the baths encourages a slower rhythm. Voices remain soft, blending with the gentle movement of water across the chamber. In many ways, the baths functioned as the social heart of Roman cities. Long before coffeehouses or modern gathering spaces existed, the bath complex provided a place where people could meet regularly without formal invitation. It was expected that citizens would visit the baths often, sometimes even daily. Because of this, friendships formed naturally within these spaces. The routine of bathing created a rhythm that repeated day after day. people began to recognize familiar faces. A baker who visited each afternoon might see the same group of workers finishing their day at the docks. A teacher might meet students who came to relax after their studies. But bathing was only one part of what these enormous complexes offered. Many Roman baths were designed as complete centers of relaxation. Beyond the bathing chambers lay open courtyards where visitors could walk slowly beneath the sky. Others featured shaded gardens with fountains and stone paths. Exercise also had its place within the bath complexes. Before entering the warm rooms, many Romans visited a large open area called the palestra. This courtyard served as a space for light physical activity. Visitors might stretch their limbs, practice gentle wrestling, toss a ball with friends, or simply walk slowly across the open ground. The Romans understood that movement prepared the body for rest. After even mild exercise, the warmth of the baths felt especially comforting. As evening deepens outside the complex, the atmosphere inside grows even more peaceful. Torches are lit along the walls, their soft glow reflecting across polished marble floors. Shadows move slowly along the columns as bathers pass quietly between rooms. The warmth of the Caldarium still glows deep within the building. The Tepidarium continues to offer gentle heat to those resting there. And here in the Frigidarium, the cool pool remains calm beneath the high arches above. For the Romans, this entire experience was not considered an occasional luxury. It was simply part of daily life. The baths welcomed people from many different walks of life, creating a shared space where the city could pause together at the end of the day. But something even more remarkable about Roman baths was how accessible they were. Despite their size, beauty, and complex engineering, visiting the baths was surprisingly affordable. In many cities, the entrance fee was extremely small, sometimes only a single coin. And during certain periods, generous emperors even allowed citizens to enter freely. This meant that almost anyone in the city could enjoy the comfort of warm water, heated rooms, and quiet companionship. The baths truly belonged to everyone. In the next part of our journey, we will explore how these enormous bath complexes were supplied with water and how Roman engineers used vast aqueduct systems to keep these peaceful places flowing day after day. While the calm pools, warm chambers, and marble halls of the Roman baths felt effortless to the people who visited them each day, an enormous system quietly worked behind the scenes to keep everything flowing. The baths required something that no city could survive without: water, and not just a small amount. A bath complex in ancient Rome needed a constant supply of fresh water to fill its pools. Far beyond the crowded streets and stone buildings of Rome, water began its slow journey toward the city from distant hills and mountain springs. These natural sources produced clean, cool water that flowed steadily year after year. Roman engineers carefully captured this water and guided it toward the city, using long stone channels known as aqueducts. These aqueducts stretched across the countryside for miles, sometimes traveling over valleys on tall arches that still stand in parts of the world today. From a distance, they appear almost like long bridges marching across the landscape, their rows of pale stone arches rising quietly above fields and roads. But the purpose of these structures was not to carry people. They carried water. Inside the aqueduct channels, water moved slowly but steadily, guided only by gravity. Roman engineers designed them with incredible precision, allowing the water to travel downhill at just the right angle. If the slope was too steep, the water would rush too quickly, and damage the channels. If the slope was too shallow, the water might stop moving entirely. So they found the perfect balance. Across valleys, hills, and plains, the aqueducts delivered a constant flow of fresh water into the heart of the city. Once the water reached Rome, it was directed into large storage tanks and reservoirs positioned at high points within the city. From there, gravity again did its quiet work, allowing water to flow through underground pipes to fountains, homes, gardens, and, of course, the public baths. Standing inside a Roman bath complex, most visitors never thought about this remarkable journey. Yet behind that peaceful experience was a vast system stretching across the landscape. Inside the baths themselves, water moved through carefully designed channels that allowed it to circulate continuously. Fresh water entered the pools regularly, while older water drained away through hidden outlets in the stone floors. This helped keep the bathing areas clean and comfortable for the thousands of visitors who might pass through the complex each day. The baths of Caracalla, for example, covered an area larger than many modern city blocks. Inside its towering walls were not only bathing chambers, but also gardens, libraries, exercise areas, and long hallways decorated with statues and mosaics. When visitors walked through these spaces, they were surrounded by beauty. Floors were often covered with intricate mosaic patterns made from tiny pieces of colored stone. Some mosaics showed scenes of sea creatures swimming through dark blue waves. The walls were lined with polished marble imported from distant regions of the Roman Empire. White marble from Greece, red stone from Egypt, green marble from North Africa, all brought together to create interiors that glowed softly in the warm light. High above, ceilings curved into domes that helped hold warmth inside the bathing rooms. Small windows allowed light to fall gently across the surfaces, creating shifting patterns that moved slowly as the sun crossed the sky. Even the sound inside the baths carried a special quality. Water dripping into pools echoed lightly beneath the arches. Footsteps moved quietly across the stone floors. Voices blended into a calm murmur that rose and fell like distant waves. For many Romans, visiting the baths was one of the most beautiful experiences in daily life. It offered something rare, a space where ordinary citizens could enjoy architecture, art, and comfort that might otherwise only belong to palaces. And yet the baths remained welcoming places. People did not enter in silence or with strict ceremony. They came as they were, after a day of work, walking through the same doors as neighbors and friends. A simple worker might relax beside a wealthy merchant without much thought about their differences. Inside the baths, everyone followed the same quiet rhythm. Warm rooms, cool pools, gentle conversation, rest. As the evening continued, bathers gradually finished their routines. Some returned once more to the tepidarium to enjoy a final moment of gentle warmth before leaving. Others sat quietly along the edges of courtyards where the evening air had begun to cool. Attendants moved through the halls, lighting additional lamps as darkness settled outside. The glow of small flames reflected off the marble surfaces, turning the great halls golden and calm. Eventually, people began to collect their belongings from the changing rooms. Tunics were pulled back over relaxed shoulders. Sandals touched the stone floor once again. The quiet sounds of preparation echoed softly through the Aqueductarium as visitors slowly prepared to step back into the city. But the calm feeling of the baths often lingered long after leaving. As bathers stepped out into the Roman streets, the air felt cooler against their skin. The tension of the day had faded, replaced by the calm warmth that remained in their muscles. For thousands of Romans, this peaceful routine repeated again and again across the years, day after day, generation after generation. Yet even something as beloved as the Roman baths would eventually begin to fade as the centuries passed and the great empire slowly changed. In the final part of our story, we will explore what happened to these remarkable places and why the tradition of Roman public bathing slowly disappeared from daily life. Inside the wide marble halls, the final visitors moved calmly through the familiar rooms one last time. The pools that were filled with gentle movement earlier in the evening now sit more still, while the Frigidarium reflects the dim glow of lamps across the calm surface of its cool pool. But slowly the day inside the baths is coming to an end. Attendants move quietly through the corridors, checking the chambers and tending to the final details of the evening. In furnace rooms hidden beneath the structure, the fires that heated the baths throughout the day began to burn lower. The steady warmth that once flowed beneath the floors gradually fades as the flames soften. The calm atmosphere continues here as well. Tunics are lifted gently over shoulders. Sandals are tied. Friends finish quiet conversations that have stretched comfortably through the evening. One by one, people step back out into the Roman streets. Above them, the sky has grown dark, scattered with quiet stars above the rooftops and narrow roads of the city. For centuries, this peaceful rhythm repeated itself across Rome and throughout the vast lands of the Roman Empire. Public baths existed not only in Rome itself, but in cities spread across Europe, North Africa, and the Middle East. Wherever Roman influence reached, the tradition of bathing followed, bringing the same quiet rituals of warm pools, cool chambers, and slow conversation to people across distant provinces. The baths became symbols of Roman daily life. They represented comfort, community. Yet over time, the world around these baths began to change. As the centuries passed, the Roman Empire slowly faced increasing challenges. Political struggles, economic pressures, and conflicts along distant borders gradually weakened the systems that once kept cities running smoothly. Maintaining the great aqueducts that carried water across the countryside became more difficult. These structures required constant care, with workers repairing stone channels, clearing debris, and protecting the long lines of arches that delivered water to the cities. When these systems began to fail in certain regions, the supply of water to the baths also declined. Without a steady flow of fresh water, the enormous pools could no longer operate as they once had. Heating the baths also required large amounts of wood for the furnaces, and gathering this fuel became harder as economic conditions shifted. A bath might close one of its chambers. A pool might remain empty for longer periods while repairs were attempted. Visitors might notice fewer attendants moving through the halls. But as years passed, the once lively bath complexes in some cities slowly faded from daily life. In Rome itself, some baths continued to operate for a long time. The largest complexes remained standing as powerful reminders of the city's earlier strength. Yet even these grand structures eventually saw fewer visitors as the city's population declined during the later centuries of the empire. The pools grew still. Earthquakes, changing governments, and the slow passage of time caused roofs to collapse and walls to crumble. Plants began to grow between the stones. rainwater collected in places where warm pools once shimmered with steam. Yet even in their ruined state, the baths never completely disappeared, uncovering the foundations of pools, furnace rooms, and the intricate hypocaust systems that once warmed the floors. Through these discoveries, the story of the Roman baths slowly returned to life. Standing among the tall arches and open courtyards, it becomes easier to imagine what these spaces once felt like when they were filled with warm water, drifting steam, and the calm rhythm of everyday Roman life. Attendants tending to the fires below the floors. They were places where a vast city paused each day to rest. And even now, thousands of years later, the quiet ruins of these ancient baths still carry a sense of that peaceful routine, a reminder that in the middle of one of history's greatest empires, people still valued something simple: warm water, calm conversation, and a quiet moment at the end of the day. If you enjoyed this slow journey into the relaxing world of ancient Rome, you can gently like the video and subscribe for more peaceful history stories to accompany your evenings and quiet moments of rest. And now, as the fires fade beneath the ancient baths and the night settles softly over Rome, you can simply relax and drift deeper into the calm of history.